Dear viewers, what is it to be a politician? Should educated people get into politics? And what kind of people need to get into politics? And how is it to live as a politician, particularly as a professional politician? To speak about all that, I have with me today a young and dynamic politician, a member of Legislative Assembly, Mr. Krishna Bairegowda. Warm welcome to the show.
Thank you, Deepak, and my greetings to all the viewers as well.
You did not have much option in getting into politics because your father was in politics. He had made a big name for himself, and it was a natural progression for you. This was the biggest opportunity where you really did not have to try much, like a lot of other people have to. So what do you think about it?
Well, definitely I've had an easy entry point, but though the times were troubled because that was associated with the death of my father. But at that point and prior to that point, I was not involved in politics. I had stayed away from politics just like many other youngsters, saying this is not my cup of tea sort of a thing. But at the death of Following the death of my father, there was a lot of demand and pressure from our constituents, the then constituency, people belonging to that constituency, that somebody from the family continue this work.
Okay.
Because they had always looked up to my father as some sort of a protector of their interests, and now they wanted somebody to fill that void. So at that point, it was a lot of thinking for me to quit what I was doing and to come back to this. It doesn't mean that I was completely away from politics. Growing up in a political environment, I was a politically, socially conscious person. So there was always some fire inside that wanted me to do something for the society. So that point was the opening, the window that I got in, to entry. So having said that, yes, the entry was sort of easier compared to many other people. But I also want to make the point that once you enter politics, then you're in pretty much
you're
the
like
same anybody else.
Okay.
So if you can prove
you're
yourself
on a level playing field.
Yeah, if you can prove yourself and by winning the hearts and minds of the people, then you continue to be in politics and continue to grow.
Okay.
So to that extent, yes, some of us, we had the privilege to go get our education, do whatever things we wanted to do, and still come back and enter politics in a relatively easy manner. So because of lineage, that gives us the access.
Okay.
But once you're in there, you're as good as anybody else.
Okay.
You can get re-elected only if you can prove yourself.
But particularly as you said, that people expect a politician's son to naturally get into politics or to continue the legacy, and even for a politician's son to think that maybe that's the right thing for him to do. Don't you think, ironically, it's like genetically transmitted quality that, a politician's son should or could have the abilities of his father to lead the people and all that. I mean, though you've been successful and you've been popular too, but to be able to be perceived like that is not very fair, because that's one of the reasons why a lot of other people stay away, because they think they do not have that natural advantage. Yeah.
No, to that extent, I agree with you that some people who want to get into politics are disadvantaged to the extent that they do not have the same entry benefits that we do have. But without repeating what I said earlier, if you are to move forward, look, there are in every walk of life. You look into the business world. You have people, and in business world, it is much more than in politics, where the second generation naturally takes over the businesses. You look in sports field also. These days we are seeing a lot of second generation from the same family taking over the sports field also.
Because you have the natural inclination, because
there
you
is some
are
exposure,
mentored for that.
some exposure.
Yeah, you're grown in that atmosphere,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you have some natural nurturing that would have taken place.
So there is some exposure you get as growing up within that environment, and that environment gives you certain advantages, no doubt about it.
No, it's not just about you having gotten into politics. Or
But one point I want to make is, as long as you are not coming in the way of somebody else making their entry into politics, I think it's fair if you ask me. If I grow at the cost of others,
somebody
and
else's growth,
I am suppressing others,
okay,
and I am preventing others,
okay,
then it's definitely not fair.
See, for instance, you got into politics. Of course, maybe the entry was easy because of your father and father's name. But even after getting into, like you say, it was a level playing field and you had to prove yourself. Maybe it is not that true because, I mean, your father had friends, quite influential friends, and they would have some kind of, soft corner for you. So there are possibilities that, you are taken care of better than a new entrant. These things actually happen. For instance, if Rahul Gandhi, with all his abilities and with all his capabilities, with all his charm and popularity, still is looked as Rajiv Gandhi's son, Indira Gandhi's grandson, Nehru's great-grandson and all that. So there is an added value addition.
Yeah. Look, once somebody is in politics, he or she is going to build their bridges and have their own buffer support base within politics. And I would perhaps inherit some of it, but even that depends. Nothing comes free in politics or in any other walk of life. If I can maintain those relationships, then it benefits. Otherwise, again, it depends on my capability. Now, coming to the subject, what you just mentioned about Rahul Gandhi, look, he has made it very clear, and I totally believe in what he said, was that he's in a certain position now. Now, being there is not his making. He's there. Now, in front of him, there are two options. Either he can do nothing about it, he can let the status quo prevail and continue, or he can do something about it, and that is the option he has picked to do, which is to open the doors of politics to a lot of other youngsters, well-meaning youngsters, educated youngsters, whoever wants to give something back to the country. So, and that is what he is trying to do, open the doors of politics to these youngsters who otherwise did not really have avenues. So I'm in a certain position now. Now I can complain about it, or I might disagree with where I stand and still not do anything about it. That is not going to serve any purpose. Okay. But if I can make use of my position to advance the cause of other youngsters, to help other youngsters, to open doors to other youngsters, and make sure that more well-meaning youngsters come into politics, well, that's something positive. And that's what Rahul Gandhi is doing.
But that's something you tried, trying to bring in youngsters, educated ones, people who are really interested in politics, to mentor them, to give an opportunity and all that. But you came to know in your effort itself as to what are the kinds of obstacles anybody like you would face. So it's not that easy at all. It's actually better to be the son of a politician.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, if you look for an easy way out, then nothing is perhaps more easier than continuing with the status quo.
Okay.
Rahul Gandhi always says, change is accompanied by turbulence.
Okay.
Any change. You look at anywhere. Not in just human society, you look at it in the physical world or chemical world. Any change is accompanied by turbulence, but if you believe that the change is for the right cause, then I think you have to, grit your teeth and face it.
Yeah,
be prepared to face it.
You had a good education, you had a good job, you're married to a person who is also in a good job.
Yeah.
You really did not need this. If at all you had to make an option that way.
Yeah.
Because you know very well that, politicians are actually looked down upon in this country because everybody suspects a politician to be everything that stands for bad.
Yeah.
Okay? So how do you actually take this? Because I'm sure that, you know, there are these accusations, allegations, you know, mudslinging, tainting, and all that, you know, something that really pulls down your personality itself. Because, you know, somewhere you need to draw the line saying that whether you want to be seen as a good politician or, you know, just be yourself.
Yeah. It's true, I had a job, my wife had a job, and
she still has a job.
Yeah, she has a job, and we were quite content with what we were doing. I was working in the development field, international development, and I was...
You were abroad.
Yeah, I was quite happy doing that. But all said and done, I still had an inkling inside me because of the, again, environment I grew up in. A certain concern for the society, certain concern for our country, and there was an inkling to do something. But as precisely for the same reasons that you mentioned about politics, it being a dirty game, it being a tough one, all these reasons, I had also opted to stay away. But it doesn't mean that there was no inkling.
No, but you had actually seen it in your father, because you had seen a lot of good politicians also.
Yes, yes.
So how could you even, you know, think like that? Because
my father came from a certain generation.
Okay.
And I know these might sound like excuses, but my father came from a certain generation where there was a lot of commitment for values in politics. You came to politics for a reason, and that reason was not to make money. Okay, but there were reasons beyond oneself that people came to politics for. So of course my father was a living example, and he continues to be an example for me today also, that you can still survive in politics with a clean character. But those days, you know, 6 years ago when this was coming up, it was a tough choice, no doubt. I had to give up my career, my life otherwise, and get into politics. So one side, there was a certain maybe a flickering fire, but there was a fire inside me to do something, to take on the challenge. That is one part. And the other part was I just could not say no to the people who at that point said, no, you have to come in. So because human relationships and the love that people show to you is something else. You cannot quantify, you cannot rationalize that, you cannot explain it in a very rational way. But I think it was a combination of both the love and affection that people have shown for us, for me, for my family, and also the fire that I had to do something about it. So that was the entry stage. But afterwards, because you raised about politics being a dirty word in itself in society, well, you know, it is not easy. It's a tough one, no doubt about it. But if you believe in something, and you got to stick it out for that belief, and that is what you have to try. And as long as it is clear in your mind, in your conscience, what you are doing is right, then I think you can wither a lot of these storms. Sometimes it's very upsetting. It's you know, you start wondering, what is it that you're in this for? Sometimes those moments are there, but those moments are there no matter where. But I think at the end of the day, yes, at the end of the day, you feel you've done something good. And that is the feeling that keeps you going, no matter these obstacles. And just one more thing, a lot of people ask me, because I had a private life before living outside and all that. They ask me, so how is life now compared to, you know, my life earlier? So I tell them, well, I had a life. And there ends the matter. So that is such, you know, it is such, you just have to, you know, go on.
But when you made this option, you knew very well that you were exposing yourself a little too much, because in politics you're completely exposed. And that's not very good, because people don't know where to actually make the distinction. Your wife, and she has a job abroad, and you're here, and you meet once in a while, and you're there all the time in the constituency, you leave early in the morning, reach very late home.
Couple of things. As you said public life and private life. Well, now there is only one life, and that is definitely not private life, because you are living in a completely public sphere, and it's completely open, and oftentimes the incisiveness and the people looking in are quite brutal sometimes, and that's what you face it. The disconcerting thing, these are all taken for granted, you know this is what you're getting into. But the disconcerting thing that sometimes upset me is everybody tries to look at a politician in a negative way.
Okay.
And that is the common perception. Especially you look at it in the
As if
media.
they own you.
Not only they own you, but there can perhaps nothing be positive about a politician.
Okay.
This is what is very upsetting. This what it does is, and it ultimately hurts the society, because
All that they've done is given you their votes, and that is all it is.
Yes.
It's like, they've made your life, they've educated you,
Yes.
they've brought
They
you
own
up,
you.
they've given you birth.
No, they own you.
So they can speak anything about
yes,
you.
yes.
They don't realize that
You're
you're
a
their
person.
representative.
No, they don't. Sometimes they don't realize you're a human, that you have emotions.
You need sleep, you need to
No, forget
take
the
bath. you
physical
need to-
burdens,
Yeah.
Sometimes you're supposed to absorb whatever they say.
Yeah.
They forget that you're a human, that you have emotions, that some statement that you make might perhaps hurt me, So physical burdens you can take on, because I'm young, I can take on working whatever 18 hours a day. At this point in my life, I can take it. But sometimes they forget that you're a human, that as I would respect you as a fellow human, that you need to respect me as well. This point is oftentimes forgotten. Just because I am a representative, many people, even the media, feels that you have the other person has right to say anything they want.
Okay.
So this is what is disconcerting.
And they have
to add
a
to
right
that-
over your 24 hours.
Yes.
In the sense, they can
because
call you anytime.
anytime,
You need to
12
wake up
o'clock
at
in
any
the-
time. If you're not there at the time when
Deepak,
things happen,
Deepak,
that you're not the right person to
Deepak,
be.
Being accountable 24 hours is also not an issue, if you ask me. But you
how's
call
it
it 12.
possible?
No. You call it 12 o'clock in the night just to say hi,
And
or
you
just to
don't-
tell me that the water did not come
Okay.
to your locality. Is it an issue that needs to be brought to my attention at 12 o'clock in the night?
And that is to just say that, look,
Yes.
you're my representative,
Yes.
you need to.
Yeah.
And no good person would actually come into politics that way.
Yes.
Because nobody would want that.
Yes,
Because
yes.
people can criticize, but nobody has been a politician to know exactly what the life of a politician is.
Right. Now, taking one step back, this is the reality. But on the other side, in the level of this society, and you have media, which is the fourth estate, look, ultimately these things hurt the society itself, because you're constantly projecting only negative images. Let's say I constantly, every time I meet Deepak, I pick only the negatives of you. What response are you going to have towards me as a human? You think that is going to induce any positive behavior from your side? When I'm picking only the negatives of you, when somebody does something good, very hardly, even the media, say something positive about anybody doing something positive. There is no appreciation for the
Everybody
work.
is just waiting to
to
find
pick on
worms
you.
in your can.
Yes. And I'm not saying there are no worms. And I'm not saying they should not pick worms in the can. That should be there, but there should be some balance. Okay, let it be tilted in favor of, picking the worms. But there should be some appreciation of the work that representatives do.
But what do you get
and
ultimately?
And the second point, and to brand everybody as a dirty politician, it's a great disservice. Because there are, there is nothing black and white here. We are all humans. We live in different shades of gray.
Okay.
And there are some people who are trying to do the best within these circumstances, and there are some people who take money for unavoidable reasons. Every representative every morning gets at least 5 to 10 people who come to him or her asking for money for some or the other reason.
Okay, and you
Either
need to give
their daughter is in the hospital, or somebody is doing a Ganesha festival, somebody is doing a Rajyotsava, somebody is doing Annama festival. If you don't give money, then you are
bad guy.
they're going to say, okay, come, we'll look after you when you come for during the elections.
So they actually expect you to be corrupt.
Yes.
They,
And how do you
expect
sustain it?
They expect you to have money.
Yes.
And to
Let's
be
say,
able to
okay,
give that kind of money.
let's take an even moral higher stand.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a big business establishment, then I can support it. But what about people like me who don't have a business establishment? And how am I going to support these activities? I personally, to make matters clear, I of course do not entertain any of this. In a very polite manner, I tell them, okay, I will look into it, and I just ignore it. Okay, because the moment you say, why are you doing this? Why do you expect money from me? Where am I going to get money from? If the moment I ask them this question, they're going to be so terribly upset. So I, in a very polite manner, I push these things aside. But all these have a cost, and you're taking a risk by doing that.
And this is a constant pressure,
Yes.
because you cannot offend anybody.
Yes, absolutely.
You cannot even tell the truth.
Yes. And
About
once a
anything.
senior
Even
citi-
if you cannot do a job, you cannot tell the people that you cannot do it.
Yes.
Because people expect you to lie.
Yes.
People expect you to placate.
Not just placate and lie. People expect, oftentimes people come to me seeking a help to break a law. And if you tell them this is not the right thing, that is the end of you. You cannot say no.
So what do you feel about all this?
Well, somewhere you have to exercise your conscience. It's a tough one.
No, don't you actually think there's very poor education about
let me come back to your question. The thing is to be caught in this conflict.
Yeah.
What is the right thing to do? These people, they have voted for you, or may not have voted for you, or may vote for you in the next election. Their support depends on this. And this is the same people who comment on politicians otherwise. And the same people come to you asking for favors to break a law, or asking for money, and where am I going to get the money if I'm not corrupt? So in an indirect manner encouraging corruption. And the same people go out there and comment about politicians. So we are always caught in this conflicting situation, and some of us find it easy to go with the flow.
Okay.
And some of us grit it out and say, look, there is a certain line, and I'm not going to cross that line.
Then you're taking a risk.
You're taking a risk, but you can't compromise yourself completely.
Because the educated people, the so-called educated people who don't understand, they're the first ones to break the law.
They're not only the first ones to break the law. Unfortunately, when you look for these, middle class, couch politicians who sit on their living rooms and comment about everything, when you look for their support, you look back and there is nobody there who would otherwise support you and who would otherwise recognize a person for who he or she is.
They are happy messaging TV channels,
Yes,
and calling them,
blaming.
and making
And
all kinds of comments.
And cheering when politicians get badgered, so they are the first ones to cheer. But when they see a good thing, they don't stand
But
up.
why don't you actually speak about this? I'm sure a lot of other politicians
Feel the same way.
go through all
Yes,
this.
yes.
Why don't you actually speak about it? Why don't you actually tell people, with the kind of people that you are, we cannot be better politicians?
No, I
No,
tell
I
them.
think it's the time.
No, Deepak, you might be surprised. Every time I try to bring this subject up when I'm having an interaction, I tell them, because a friend of mine gave this example, look, Krishna, cannot stand in front of a mirror. I think I've told you this before also. I cannot stand in front of a mirror and hope to see somebody like, Abhishek Bachchan or Amitabh Bachchan in the mirror. Can I? I'm going to see myself. And I am a representative from the society, and I reflect the society. And if the society is the one that is electing me, and I come from the society, I'm going to reflect the mores, the ethics, the behavior of our society. So the moment, politicians also have a very common saying. The day that money stops playing a big factor, the day the money stops playing a big factor in elections, that we will also be reformed persons as representatives.
But it doesn't stop in
It
the
doesn't
elections.
stop. It is a day-to-day affair.
Yeah, because
it is a day-to-day affair.
If it were to end at the elections, it would have been a different case altogether.
Yes.
You need to be spending money throughout your
It
term.
is not just money. Even in Bangalore city, during the elections, you need money. During the elections, people look at your caste. even the educated voters. Look at your caste and other considerations. And to top it all, the people who sit and comment about the wrongs of the political system do not even come out to vote. Last time there was an election, parliament election in Bangalore South.
They actually would decide for themselves that, you know, they can ask you to do anything in this world.
These are secondary. You know, the primary thing is, you know, Bangalore South, there was a parliament election. Bangalore South is one of the most educated constituencies in the country. Very high profile constituency. And there was no dearth of qualities in the candidates also. You could choose a professor, you could choose a successful entrepreneur who had reformed the aviation industry, you could choose a established politician, and you could choose a young politician. So you really didn't have a lack of choice, if you were to ask me. Or if you were upset with all of them, you could go cast your dissent vote. You know, there is an option to cast your dissent vote, meaning that, you know, you can actually vote and not vote for any person. And what was the percentage of polling we had in this most educated constituency in the country? 44.5%. So what does that say about the urban educated voters?
They just love complaining.
Yes.
They just love complaining. That is
and
all
when
it
you
is.
see, you know, you could have voted for a professor. Forget me. I'm a politician. All politicians are dirty. There was a professor in contesting that election, an accomplished academician. You could have gone and voted for him. There was an entrepreneur. But people don't vote.
So
and they sit and complain about the wrongs of the system.
Does
so
it
this
actually
this is the big challenge that you face. And when you try to talk to them that, look, this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing, there is never an appreciation when you try to speak the truth. You know?
So what do you feel? There is no future for young people who are educated, who really want to do good things for the country.
You know? And once you lose hope, then there is no reason to live at all. So I have hope that, you know, these are the transitory phases of our democracy, and as we mature, that things will change. But for that, there has to be a debate within the society.
Okay.
You know, that
more awareness.
Awareness has to come up. We need to talk about these things.
And politicians need to be more honest with their own people. Should start speaking about these things.
No matter the risk.
You are telling. Yeah, no matter the risk. Because, you know, it's going to affect everybody today or tomorrow.
No, but, you know, look, ultimately you can take a moral high ground and say that politicians need to be more honest. And I agree with you. I do not disagree with that. But we also need to be practical. Okay? Being practical means that we all the like-minded people, all those who are working on civic issues, or all those who are really concerned, there needs to be a debate on these issues. Only when the discussion happens, some amount of awareness comes about. And through that awareness, there will be a support group. And we all need to work towards building that support group for the right kind of people, irrespective of the parties that they belong to. And this is what I think more and more, if, you know, so-called intellectuals or who have you, you know, all of them can get together and make a difference. And I hope that happens. And once that happens, we will start seeing changes. And as you mentioned earlier, you know, Rahul Gandhi is working in this direction. He is trying to open the doors to, you know, bring transparency within the system, democratize political organization. So I think this is going to open some doors as well for the change that we want to see. So there are efforts on to bring about change, and we need to work on those more vigorously.
Okay, but we certainly can discuss a lot on this, but because of the duration of 30 minutes, we certainly cannot do more now, but I would be certainly interested to speak more about this and try to see where we can take ourselves in the future as far as politics and public participation is concerned. Krishna Bairegowda, thank you very much for having come to this show.
Thank you, Deepak, and thank you, viewers also. And I hope we will try to be a bit more responsive, all of us. Thank you.